So with that, Cyndi Claypatch. Thank you, Tina. How's that sound? Okay? Okay? A little louder. A little louder? All right. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you, Tina. I got to play here last night too, so it feels really good to be here today again in the company of everybody. You know, when we're talking about living deliberately, now this is kind of the new setup. Is this going to be too low for people? You guys. I will stand. You know, when I look at living deliberately, I look at a few different things. I love to take what the meaning of a word is and then see what energy comes forward in it. And so when you look at the word living, you know, what comes to you with that word? Anybody? Life. Okay. Breathing. And that's all of those descriptions sound a lot different than existing, right? And or when you hear people say, "I'm hanging in there," tolerating, accommodating. I mean, certainly there are things that we do have to accommodate sometimes or tolerate. But as a rule, we want to be really living. And one of our biggest reasons for being here is to be living and to be taking consciousness and expanding it for the creation of all things. And so whether we expand on an emotional level or a physical level or an inventive level, you know, creative levels, it's like that's really living, isn't it? Because it means that energy is in motion. Existing is kind of like, you know, you're just trying to, and there are times where we have a pause. I mean, there's power in a pause, isn't there? Yeah. Quincy Jones, one of the things that he said is that we've got to leave space for God to walk through. You know, so we do need pauses. But what I see a lot of times in the work I do is that people innocently start just existing and take, you know, that energy to just be surviving. And so when we look at the word deliberate, what comes to you about that?
We make choices.
Huh?
Focus.
Focus.
Awareness.
Awareness.
Intentional.
Intentional. Progress. If you look it up in Wikipedia or something, they'll talk about not sudden, you know, slow, deliberate, careful consideration to something, intention, and on purpose. So I like to think about, well, what's on purpose? Well, we've got our life's purpose, huh? And to me, life purpose can be split into a number of different things, but to me, the most obvious is that we have a personal life's purpose, which is something that we came here contracting to work on while we're here. And in that, we didn't always, in this lifetime, in our awareness, think that we chose that. But on some level, you know, we did. And so let's say that one of your life purposes, well, all life purposes are to find some mastery. And so let's say if you reflect back on your life and you see these patterns that, you know, get repeated, you can say, wow, one of my personal life purposes is that I was supposed to come here and learn about change. Because every time I think I have something settled, then, whoop, you know, it's like a cafeteria tray. You take one and another one pops up. You know, it's like that happens. So then in your lifetime, that might be your thing, is change. For somebody else, it might be relationships. You know, is that you're going to keep having these experiences constantly around people. And somebody else, it might be around setting limits. Like they've never really taken good care of themselves and have to keep listening and listening and listening deeper to what that means, and having to set more clear boundaries and limits all the time, and every time you think you have that, then somebody else comes into your life so that you get to practice it again. And then other people, it'll be health issues. And in the health issues, it's like you're learning how to listen to yourself, and you know, elicit support in other ways, and you start spreading all the different ways that you can attend to your health, whether it's through communicating better, or whether it's through listening more, or whether it's through understanding other systems. And then in the end, the biggest mastery lesson around health is knowing that you're not your body. Right? But you may have a bunch of lessons all the way up to that, and then you get that part, and then you're like, oh, that's it. Is that this is my earth suit, and I need to take care of it so I can move around in the world in it, but I am not that. And so you see the difference in the levels as you go up in your consciousness, that the levels start to become more spiritual, don't they? And that's where we're coming into that mastery, you know, of our personal journeys, what our life's purpose is on a personal level. And then each of us come into the world and we've got gifts. And then that gift goes out into the world. So pretty hard to bring a gift into the world if your personal stuff isn't attended to, right? So that's why we have to kind of work on both levels. So when we start moving into life's purpose into the community, or for the planet, or for the collective around us, then we've got another level of things that we're working on. And some people come into the world and they're transmitters. They transmit information. They're bringing messages to raise consciousness. And that can be a parent, can be an educator, can be a leader. You know, and then we have people who come in and they're meant to do grounding. So they do a lot of grounding of people. And they tend to have a lot of hysterical people come around them a lot. Because one of their jobs is to come onto the planet and provide grounding. And sometimes when they travel, they may travel to different sites or places, and everybody's like, well, what'd you do? And you say, well, nothing. They're like, what do you mean you didn't do anything? And you say, I don't know, I felt called to just go there. So you might be grounding different parts of the planet, different places that you go. And then there's people who are activators, that you go and you activate something. You know, whether that's through travel or whether that's through friendship, and you just nudge people a little bit, and you find that you're always activating something. Maybe asking the reflective questions so that then they wake up more. And then you've got the people who are always the support. They're maybe the elevators. They're always kind of elevating other people. They champion other people. They speak high praise of other people. They're the wind beneath the wings kind of idea. And so they might be quietly never noticed, but they're always doing something in the background. They're always moving things ahead. And so it's really fun when you start looking at all the different kinds of people that we have. You know, we have the healers who are coming in, and they're clearing oftentimes anything past so that somebody can move forward. Or they might be bringing in the grids or the energies that the person's supposed to carry forward. And so people like that, they might tend to get a little bit more attention than somebody who's an elevator because they're more out front. But when I think of, some of you got to meet my mom last night, she's always been right behind everybody in the family, just always quietly kind of doing her own thing and really supporting people. And she champions people all the time, always talking about what somebody, you know, did you know that so-and-so does this? And maybe you should know that person. So she's also a little connector. Does a lot of work at connecting people. So it's really interesting when we start looking at, what our purpose is and how do we live deliberately is to be listening for that, isn't it? In a world that's wanting us to run to the grocery store, fill up our gas tank, and do all the other things. So we've got what's that? What time does it start? I'll make sure it's done. But it's that trying to do these other purposeful things in our life to develop ourselves so that we can then raise consciousness. And as we raise consciousness, it goes out into the world higher. So it's that part about, it's my job to raise my consciousness so that I then have something to offer at that higher level. And so that doesn't matter if it's with family or with a congregation or collectives or whatever it is. It's like, I want to be as clear as I can. And so to be as clear as I can, I might need to do some stuff that honors my system so that I can hear me. Hear what my divine guidance within me and what I'm receiving from my guides or the Great Spirit or God or wherever is trying to offer me as well. I was last week with, I don't know if some of you know the poet David White. And I was at the gathering with him last week, and one of the things that struck me so much about what he said was, he said, we need to make a doorway to be hospitable, even to ourselves. And then when you open that doorway, apprentice to yourself. And that's really big because we're so often listening out here to everybody and everything in our life telling us what we should be doing. But as far as living deliberately in our life's purpose, it's like we got to get in alignment with our higher self. What is it that we're bringing forward? And I just love, the idea that every single one of us is bringing something different. And how beautiful that is to be able to then take that out into the world. I mean, this community knows this more than most, right? Is you do deliberate things. But sometimes it's even in some simple things, like if you look at what gets in the way of you living deliberately, what do you notice? Anybody? Good morning. Guess you don't have to do the class, huh? So the things that get in the way of people living deliberately are what? What's that? Making money. Did you say something? Busyness? Fear is a big one, isn't it? Yeah, I always think of like this water bottle of mine. If this cap is on, I can't access anything. It's like I have to move this. I can't. It's got to be like that. And then I can go like this when I need it, but I won't have access. And so it's one of those things that, the busyness is big. And so when you say fear, then it's fear of what? That's a great. And each of those things activate the brain more, don't they? Well, what if this? Well, then, that. Then, that. Well, then, what about that? And it just keeps activating. It's kind of like the word why. I threw out the word why from my vocabulary a long time ago because all it did was activate my mind. Why? Well, because of that. Well, then why is that? And it would just activate more.